My phone buzzed with a voicemail from my mom. "You're out of the family business," she said. "Expect a call from our lawyer." I didn't argue. Just shot back a quick, "Understood." I kept quiet and sold off my 50% share. 3 days later, I had 80 missed calls, my brother, Ryan, begging me to undo the sale. First off, thanks for being here with me today. Wherever you're tuning in from, I hope your day's going great. If you feel like it, drop a comment. Tell me what city or country you're in, and what time it is over there. Now, let's get into the story. It started with a little red dot showing up on my phone screen, right above the voicemail icon. It was Mom. Right away, that old familiar tension came flooding back, the kind that always tagged along whenever she called. Even though I lived 2 states away and had built a life of my own, she barely seemed to notice it existed. I took a breath and tried to tell myself it was probably something about the holidays, or maybe she just wanted me to glance at some business paperwork again. I hit play. Her voice, usually warm and full of light, came through cold, stiff, and straight to the point. No small talk. "Jake," she started. "No, honey. No, dear." That alone hit like a slap. "Your father, your brother, and I have made a decision about the business. We're restructuring. Effective immediately. You're out. We're buying out your share. Expect a call from our lawyer." That was it. The voicemail cut off. Then came the silence, complete and suffocating in my little apartment. My hand was shaking so bad I nearly dropped the phone. A hard knot twisted in my stomach, spreading through my chest like ice. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped it in barbed wire and started pulling. I stared at the wall in front of me, the one I'd spent forever choosing a paint color for. Now it just looked cold and pointless. This was our family business. The one I had put my blood into. The one I'd sacrificed for, time and time again. I'd kept it alive when things were falling apart. And sure, the money mattered. My 50% stake was no small thing. But it went way deeper than that. That share was my story. My roots. The last fragile link to a family that, more often than not, felt like a cold, demanding company instead of a place of love. My granddad started it all, a small manufacturing shop built on hard work and handshake. When he passed, he split the business, 20% to my dad, 30% to my mom, and 50% to me. Ryan, my older brother, was just starting college then. Grandpa said my piece was supposed to be my foundation, my claim to the family legacy as long as I was willing to earn it. I was. Right out of high school, I jumped in. Learned the books, the operations, everything. While Ryan chased a business degree he barely used on the actual business. Dad didn't bother much with the daily grind. Mom became the face of the company, dealing with clients, running Ryanitting. Eventually, Ryan slid into operations. He was charming as hell, sure, but rarely touched the nitty-gritty. Inventory? Payroll? Forget it. That was all me. Mom used to say with a little smile. "Jake handles the numbers. Bless his heart, he doesn't really get the business." Ryan would chuckle and add, "Yeah, Jake is our bean counter. Keeps the lights on." And I did. When the Ryanette took a hit and Mom and Ryan blew money on some shiny upgrade we didn't need, my share became the safety net. I skipped buying my first car so we could pay suppliers on time. Held off on my student loans. Took the down payment I'd saved for a house and used it to cover payroll. I even cashed out childhood investments I'd scraped together doing odd jobs, just so we wouldn't default on a loan. That 50% share? It felt less like a gift and more like a vein the business tapped any time it got desperate. Like a chain that held me back every time I tried to move forward. Still, I stuck around. Because deep down, I wanted them to see me. Not just as the guy who fixed financial messes, but as someone who mattered. As part of the family, I poured everything into that company, hoping that one day they'd see me not just as a piggy bank, but as a son, a brother, a real partner. That was my blind spot, believing that being family meant loyalty, fairness, that all my work and sacrifices had to mean something in the end. Every dollar I gave felt like a quiet, desperate question. Do you see me? Do I matter to you? Looking back, the red flags were always there. I was never invited to big strategic meetings. But Ryan, who didn't understand a balance sheet, always had a seat. I'd only find out about key decisions after noticing the numbers didn't add up. Mom would wave off my ideas like she was humoring a kid. Ryan constantly talked over me at family dinners when business came up. He'd physically close me out of huddles with Mom or Dad, like I was invisible. This wasn't just about the money. It was about being slowly erased. cut out of the picture like some forgotten relative in an old family photo. The trust was breaking down, piece by piece. And even though it hurt, I kept hoping I still belonged. Then came the voicemail. "You're out." And just like that, hope shattered. That old ache for approval turned into a cold, hard lump in my throat. It didn't just hurt. It felt like betrayal. The final slap after every single sacrifice I'd made. I didn't respond right away. Couldn't. I sat there in the quiet, listening to the hum of the fridge, the ticking of the clock, and the echo of her words still ringing in my ears. It didn't really hit me until the next day. That first wave of shock faded, and what crept in was this slow, aching kind of confusion. Why now? What the hell did I do? 2 weeks later, I got my answer, in just about the coldest way possible. I was killing time on Facebook, scrolling past the usual vacation pics and baby announcements, when a post from a local business group stopped me cold. It was a photo. There was Mom and Ryan, grinning like they just won the lottery, shaking hands with some guy I'd never seen before. The caption proudly announced a major new partnership for our family business, one that was going to take things to the next level. Reading that post felt like stumbling across my own obituary, sandwiched between someone's beach trip and a newborn's first smile. They had signed a huge deal, brought in a new partner, one that would shake up the business, its structure, its finances, its entire future. And I found out about it. On Facebook. It wasn't just the voicemail anymore. It was the complete lack of respect. Like I was so unimportant they didn't even need to tell me. I called Mom. She answered casually, like it was nothing. "Oh, that? Yeah, we meant to tell you. It all happened so fast." Fast? I asked. "Mom, this is a major partnership. This affects my stake in the company." "Jake," she sighed, like she was explaining the weather. "We didn't think you needed to be involved. You're not around every day." It was complicated business stuff. We handled it. That fake sweetness was back in her voice. Only now, it cut like a blade. Then Ryan jumped in, all smug and sure of himself. "Yeah, man, you're just the money guy. Let us handle the real decisions. You wouldn't get it anyway." It felt like I got punched in the gut. Just the money guy? That phrase had always rubbed me the wrong way, but now? Now it summed up exactly how they saw me. All those years I kept things afloat. Every sacrifice, every late night, every check I wrote, reduced to some shallow little label. The shock was gone. What took its place was something colder, sharper, anger. That blind hope I'd carried for so long. That one day they'd finally see me as part of the family? It wasn't fading. It was getting torn out of me, ripped up by the roots. They weren't careless. They weren't forgetful. They were choosing to leave me out. On purpose. Because it was easier for them. After that call, I went silent. They probably figured I'd come crawling back, arguing, pleading, trying to get back in the game. But that guy? That version of me was gone. The voicemail, the Facebook post, their smug, dismissive responses. It all flipped a switch in me. I wasn't going to bleed for people who only saw me as a wallet with a name. Not a brother. Not a son. Just a resource. Something to use. Fine. They wanted me out. I wouldn't fight their fight. The emotional, messy one I never won. I'd fight mine. With the one thing they thought defined me. The numbers. The logic. The business smarts they always acted like I didn't have. I got to work. No yelling. No angry texts. I made one quiet phone call. A lawyer, sharp, experienced, someone I'd met through a contact years back. I laid it all out. My 50% ownership. My years of financial support. The secret partnership. The voicemail telling me I was out. And their threat about sending their lawyer. And then, as if it wasn't a big deal, I mentioned the records I'd kept. All of them. Every transfer, every payment I covered, every informal loan I made to keep the business alive. That's when my lawyer leaned in. "Jake," he said, "that's the key. Documentation changes everything." Over the next few days, I went into machine mode. I dug up old emails, bank statements, even physical files I still had tucked away. I sorted through it all, put together a crystal clear timeline of every dollar I'd poured into the company. Then I started digging into the business side. The few reports they'd ever let me see. I compared them with public records, looked for patterns, tried to get a read on where things really stood before this mystery partnership came along. That's when I started noticing things. Little inconsistencies, numbers that didn't quite add up. There was more going on here than just bad management. It felt like something had been hidden now. Maybe for a while. It hit me. Maybe they didn't just want me gone. Maybe they needed me gone, because I'd already helped fix something big once without knowing the whole story. And now, they didn't want me asking questions. But it was too late. I had the proof. Once my lawyer reviewed everything, the path forward was clear. They wanted to buy me out? Fine. But they weren't going to set the terms. And they sure as hell weren't going to control the story. Turns out, if they wanted to force a buyout, there were a bunch of legal hoops to jump through. But if I wanted to sell my share to someone else? That was usually simpler, unless the operating agreement said otherwise. Which, lucky for me, it didn't. My lawyer had connections. He knew folks in private equity, investors who specialized in buying stakes in private companies. Especially the messy, family-run kind with hidden problems. We found someone fast. A private equity group that didn't care about the drama. They just cared about numbers and potential. I laid it all out for them, backed by every detailed financial record I had. I didn't badmouth my family. Didn't need to. I just showed them the facts. My 50% stake. My history as the company's silent bank account. The major partnership deal I wasn't told about. Their attempt to cut me out and buy me off for pennies. The records made it clear. There were cracks underneath the surface. And this company wasn't as solid as they made it seem. The investors moved fast. Faster than my family probably ever had. Faster than they were prepared for. The investors team didn't just look at the official company records. They cross-checked everything against the independent logs I'd kept. Every dollar in and out that I'd quietly covered over the years. All those notes I'd taken, detailed entries from past financial meltdowns I helped prevent, suddenly became more than just old files. They became evidence. Then came the day of the sale. I sat in my lawyer's crisp, sterile conference room. Pen in hand, signing the final documents. No shouting. No last-minute speeches. Just the soft scratch of my signature on paper. Barely a sound. But at Ryan, the end of everything that came before. I sold my 50% stake. And no, it didn't feel like a victory. Not yet. It felt heavy. Like the weight of a dream gone cold. I'd wanted a real family business. Now that was gone. Mixed in with the sadness was a sliver of fear about how they'd react. And this grim satisfaction. I didn't just accept what they did. I flipped the ending. I made the exit on my terms. My final move in the business wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Calculated. Permanent. Once the papers were signed and the funds were locked safely in escrow under my lawyer's name, I sent one last message in response to Mom's original voicemail. One word. Understood. Shortest message I ever wrote. Loudest one I ever sent. Then I waited. The next 72 hours were slow and brutal. Not because I was second-guessing. Because I knew what was coming. That investors team? They were going to make themselves known. Reach out to Mom and Ryan. Let them know the ownership had changed hands. And start digging into the books as the new 50% stakeholder. I tried to keep busy. But every buzz from my phone made my stomach flip. Every notification sent a jolt of nerves through me. Then came the storm. Right on schedule, morning of the second day. Phone calls. Nonstop. Mom. Ryan. The office line. Missed calls stacking up. 5, 10, 30, 50, 70. My screen was a strobe light of panic. The text came next, starting off confused, then turning frantic, then furious, and finally, desperate. I picked up when Ryan called. His voice, usually all puffed up and full of himself, now sounded thin, shaky, scared. Jake, what did you do? You have to fix this. Please, just undo it. I was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that only shows up after everything inside is already broken. Undo what, Ryan? I asked. His voice cracked. The investor. They froze everything. They're asking for all the books. They're reviewing every number. They said they've found problems. That word, problems, hung in the air. I felt it land like a hammer. Because I knew exactly what he was talking about. That investor team didn't mess around. Their due diligence, powered by the red flags and my documentation and their own sharp eye, had gone straight to the truth. This wasn't just sloppy accounting. This was deep, ongoing financial mismanagement. Serious enough that the new owners hit pause and demanded a full investigation. My quiet exit had done more than just walk away. It cracked the shell wide open. This wasn't just a sale. This was a grenade, and I just pulled the pin. A grenade they helped me build. Year after year. With every lie they told. And every dollar they quietly took. Problems, I said back to him. letting the word hang in his panic. That's their right, Ryan. They own 50% now. Same as I did. But Mom said you were out, he stammered. She left that voicemail. We were gonna buy you out. You said I was out, I reminded him. You told me I didn't need to be involved. Said I was just the money guy. That you handled the real decisions. I repeated their own words. Each one like a slow, measured punch. I took you at your word. I'm out. You handle the real decisions now. I paused. Looks like the new partner is handling them too. His panic morphed into anger. But I wasn't there for it. I hung up. The calls didn't stop right away. But my responses did. I passed everything through my lawyer after that. Short, cold, clean. Mom and Ryan scrambled. They tried blaming the investor. Then they blamed me. Then came the guilt trips. Their arrogance collapsed into desperation. They were backed into a corner now. And they knew it. That 50% stake I'd sold? It came with teeth. And the investor had the bite to match. They had the share. The leverage. And most importantly, the evidence. Lawsuits loomed. The business was on the edge. Bankruptcy or a forced restructuring wasn't just possible, it was likely. And as the dust settled, the deeper truth started coming out. This hadn't been a one-time mess-up. The investor's audit, mashed with my own records, uncovered years of shady financial decisions and hidden debt. Turns out the hole I had unknowingly helped patch up years ago, with my own savings, wasn't just a temporary dip. It was a crater. A financial black hole Mom and Ryan had been covering up for years. They weren't just looking for a partner to grow the business. They were trying to inject quick cash without letting anyone see how bad things really were. That investor? They were likely sold a clean version of the company. One that never existed. Now they saw the truth. This wasn't just poor management. It was deception. Long-term. Deliberate. And the only reason it finally came to light was me. Maybe that's why they wanted me out. Maybe they always knew the value of my stake wasn't what Grandpa meant it to be. Maybe they knew it was a lie all along. What tipped everything over in the end wasn't just the documents or the audit. It might have been someone on the inside. A long-time employee, someone who'd watched it all and stayed quiet. Maybe they were loyal to me. Or maybe they were just tired of the lies. Either way, they helped the truth come out. And they knew. Just like I did. My records were the key. The social fallout hit hard. But in some ways, it brought a lot into focus. Some relatives bought into Mom and Ryan's version of things. That I was some selfish, cold-hearted son who turned his back on the family. Others, especially the ones who had quietly seen my years of support, or caught wind of the business issues, kept their distance. A few reached out with cautious support. Most just stayed silent, not wanting to get involved. That's when I realized who my real support system was. My lawyer, always professional. But underneath that, genuinely caring. And then there were the friends I had outside the family. They didn't just listen, they got it. They told me I wasn't crazy. That walking away didn't make me weak. That sometimes, family isn't who you share blood with. It's who shows up with respect, with honesty, and with care. That became my new definition of family. The road to healing was slow. It didn't come in a straight line. Once the adrenaline wore off, what settled in was a deep kind of sadness. Not just over losing my stake in the business, but over losing the dream I'd clung to for so long. The hope of a real, loving family. I had moments where I got angry, others where I second-guessed everything, but those moments always ran into the truth. The voicemail, that Facebook post, Ryan's words, and the undeniable evidence I uncovered. I finally understood something. Sometimes the strongest move isn't fighting for a seat at someone else's table. It's knowing when to walk away and stop setting yourself on fire just to keep them warm. So I built boundaries. Firm ones. I didn't answer calls unless they were scheduled. Any communication went through my lawyer. I didn't talk about the business. I didn't talk about the past. It was tough, especially with Mom. But I needed that distance. I needed to heal. Eventually, I had to accept that the relationship I wanted with them, it wasn't real. It never was. And that truth? It burned at first. But it also set me free. I carry the lessons with me now. That even with family, boundaries matter. That there's a world of difference between obligation and real love. That's self-respect. The kind where you say enough isn't selfish. It's survival. And I learned something else, too. Being the money guy wasn't a weakness. Wasn't just some label they tossed around. It was a skill. A strength. The one thing that gave me the power to finally protect myself and to shine a light on everything they tried to keep hidden. Yeah, I lost the business. And sure, I lost the illusion of what my family could have been. But I gained something bigger. I got my freedom, my self-respect, and a clearer picture of who I am. And who's really in my corner. The people who see me. Not just what I can give. The weight I'd carried for decades. I didn't even know how heavy it was. Until it was gone. It left behind a deep ache. But also, a lightness I hadn't felt in years. Signing those papers didn't just end a business deal. It was me declaring my independence. It wasn't the ending I ever pictured for my family story. But maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of mine. It was messy. It hurt. But standing here now, on ground I know is solid, my feet finally steady beneath me, I see it clear. I made the only choice I could. The right one. Sometimes, the hardest boundaries you'll ever set are with the people you love the most. And now I have to ask you, what would you have done? Thanks for sticking around and listening to my story.